How is it going, guys? Malagant here, coming up with like a update video to the Cold Sorcerer. What has changed ever since more content has been available to me? Because the last video that I made about this was like in beta, so I did commit to Cold Sorcerer. I'm like level 70 right now as I'm making this video. I've completed all the campaign, watched and listened to like every dialogue about that. So like the pace is a little bit slow on that. The game is very long when you actually like watch and listen to everything. It's insane, but it's also worth it because it's kind of like a build up in the campaign. So if you would be interested in something like that, and chances are you will never do the campaign ever again in Diablo because of by design. Um, so you might as well. It's kind of definitely worth it. I'm not gonna lie. This game has one of the best cinematics. Well, it has the best cinematic that I have ever watched in any game. You probably, if you have finished the game and if you have already watched it too, you probably know which one I'm talking about. It's just absolutely insane. And the story was pretty convincing. You know, it's not necessarily like top tier, but it was fine. So yeah, that after that input, now I'm like slowly completing the map. You know, I have about like 6 hour periods of like stream right now, 2 streams actually. One like night session where I like with friends I group up, thanks to Diablo, and we like do nightmare dungeons, farm a little bit of experience, you know, have some banter, and on the like day side, let's say, because I sleep in the morning, thanks to the night side. On the day side, I basically you know, complete the map a little bit, you know, get like completion in, try to like progress my account a little bit, some like challenges, some codex improvements, etc. And it's a bit of like theory crafting as well. So after getting all of that out, how is the mage going? How is the sorcerer going? And like where is she at? Let's check it out. I have changed some stuff, and to be honest with you, this is not even the final form. I definitely have like much more ideas because ever since like I have been, you know, theory crafting and looking into and thinking about the Paragon boards, which is kind of fun to meddle with, you know, when you look at it and when you simplify it in a way that, oh, it's either intelligence or a strength option, you will go for the intelligence. No, it's not that simple, because you do want to go here, like nobody that I watched ever covered this. You do want to go here, you 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 want to go here. You also want to go to an exit. Which exit do you want to take? Which ones can you sacrifice not going to on the board? You want to go to the next board as well. Every single board is unique. You can preview them over here. And you have so many points that you will need to spend. Just so many. You know what I mean? That feeling is just right. You have so few, but you also so many. So it's pretty good. So I want to like take the max out of every board and connect to the next board. Same goes for like reaching out as many glyphs as possible. Which glyph do I use? Which one I level up first? There are so many things that you could select and do differently for sure. So in this video, we are not going to be covering my paragons because I'm not content. They're working, they're pretty good, but I'm not content. Okay, like I'll still continue thinking about them. For just that reason, I'll show you like what this is at least, right? So that like you at least know at this state of my character how it is. I had the Frigid Fates over here on the left hand side. This is my third board. The first one is the starting board. I started with the glyph control. You can also start with exploit. Either one is really good. The next board, so my first selected board was the Icefall board, and I have selected the glyph Adept on that one, and now I am, you know, I'm kind of progressing into over here to the Frigid Fate as like my next board, and I've selected Enchanter, but this is not necessarily my option. It's a bit of like a, you know, problematic design over here that like some of these glyphs they require you to spend within their vicinity. As you see that like that red you know, area that it opens when you mouse over, or like, you know, you don't even need to mouse over actually. This is like basically the range of the glyph. And for instance, for Enchanter, I need to spend 40 intelligence within this range to be able to like activate its bonus. I would like to run something like exploit in here, to be honest with you, but with this board it's not possible. I would like to run exploit over here. With this board it's not possible. So I have some like problems going on right now, definitely, that I'm gonna need to fix. Well, simply put, I might need to change the board, but then we're losing some like very good stuff for my kids or yada yada. You understand what I'm saying? So maybe this was not necessarily the best leveling method. Okay, so about the skills. We have Frostbolt, just 1 pointer, and we have connected into Glinting Frostbolt for some mana return. This is pretty good. I still couldn't come to a point where like I can just continue regenerating passively. I think in Diablo 4, I would like to come up to that point and just ditch the Frostbolt completely and perhaps like put something like Frozen Arbor for late game. That is what I have in my mind, and it's probably going to be possible given some like certain uniques and certain combinations of like glyphs and Paragon. For sure, it should be possible, definitely. So I'm trying that in the long run, but right now I couldn't figure it out. And while you're leveling, you should not worry about something like I said. You should just go for the Glinting Frostbolt for this build. It's gonna like return you some mana, and it's going to be synergizing with the chill, building up even more chill and freeze, which we are going to be needing the most. So this is the biggest difference, right, from the first iteration of my build. I was playing like with Frozen Orb the most, and then Ice Charge wasn't even like spec'd into. Now we have like hard cast Ice Charge, so my right click is actually Ice Charge, and we have only 5 points to the Frozen Orb. We're not necessarily modifying it. So the Frozen Orb is used in the enchantment section. You can read it on the bottom right over here. It says, whenever you cast a non-basic skill, you have 20% chance to launch a Frozen Orb at the nearby enemy. The good thing about this is that it's an auto-targeting system. So if the mob is 2 meters away from you, then the auto-casted Frozen Orb is going to stop at 2 meters. This is amazing. Now, for the hard-casted Frozen Orb, this was not the case. There is a unique in the game that is, you know, the power lets you leave the Frozen Orb behind for like a couple more seconds, you know, pulsing, and then it explodes, which is very good for the Frozen Orb hardcast build. Excuse me, but for the late game, I don't know if I'm in the end game yet, because like I'm level 70, I'm doing like 75, 80-ish content right now. But for the section that I started, let's say, for the late game, there are too many oppressors. So oppressor is one of those things. This is also in Path of Exile, right? There's like a wide bubble around the mob, and you need to DPS from the inside. It kind of blocks all the damage coming from the outside, all the projectiles and stuff, not necessarily all damage. So you need to position your character within this. And in the earlier section of the game, it wasn't so annoying because there was, the mobs only had like 1 or 2 mods on them, only if 2 mods, so at maximum. And you weren't really seeing these oppressors that often, so it wasn't really annoying. But in the later section where I'm playing now, there's just far too many of them, right? These mods. So often I find myself trying to like step into these bubbles, and then it is very difficult to like place your Frozen Orb right. It is very, very difficult to place it right. I didn't want to like bother with this. It's terrible. So the autocast is still there, the enchantment effect. Whenever you cast a non-basic skill, you have a chance to launch a Frozen Orb, and this always launches straight to the target. It's very good. It's smart casting. So that section is still working properly, but just because of this reason, I started Ice Stride. Now you can level with Frozen Orb as well. I'll leave this up to you. Whichever legendary you end up finding, if it's going to be the Ice Shards that are like splitting, or if it's going to be the Frozen Orb, this is like standing behind, whichever you end up like finding first. You can 100% select which one to hardcast. But this right now is my setup. Another thing, when I was talking about legendaries that I should talk about or mention, is that I have seen lots of videos where they're telling you to be cautious, don't use your legendary power on this and that. They're not so rare. There are three tiers in this game when it comes to like a gear. The regular gear, and then there's the sacred gear, which is like later on section. It's about like world tier 3 basically, that like drops the sacred gear. So sacred gear has like more and better affixes. And then there's going to be the ancestral, which is in world tier 4, the torment world. And in this section, the ancestral gear starts dropping, and it's even better, right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's not only the stats of the gear this is upgrading, it's also the legendary aspect of the items are upgrading with these tiers as well. So in that case, you really wouldn't like to use the first, the worst form of the legendary aspect of what you're going for. So it's kind of useless to save this. You know what I mean? So these videos that were made in like the beta, they're misguiding, and it's not good. You should be using the legendary power, and you should be using the aspect that you take out pretty much immediately. Just make sure that like you're using in a good item. You know, that item will take you for like 5-10 levels. 100% use it. Make the most out of it. So if you end up like finding, in this case, ice shards, frozen orb, go for it, guys. Just close your eyes and go for it, because later section of the game, you wouldn't even like that aspect. You would like the better version anyways, the ancestral version. Now that's out of the way. This is the one that you need to find. It is also recently been nerfed. So if you look at it, it says imprinted, you deal 52%, from 50 to 70. So I have a bad one actually. More damage to immobilize, stun, and frozen enemies. This is the bread and butter of our spec. It deals an amazing amount of DPS, and you're going to be having a video at the end of this video, well, a clip actually from my stream, where you'll be able to like see what sort of single target damage we can dish out. So you need this all the time. The first time that you find it, it can be put into like ring, two-hander, one-hander, gloves, and I think one more you can be putting this into. But that being said, you want to be putting on the two-hander, because with the two-hander you actually empower this number. So this simply put, if this was on my gloves, it would have been 26%. Since it's on my staff, it's 52%. So it like doubles the power of the imprinted on a two-hander. Therefore, we are dealing that much more damage. One thing that I'm going to say is that like there's increased damage, there's more damage. I'm suspecting it to be just like Path of Exile, where one of them is additive while the other one is multiplicative. It's a more multiplier, but I'm not 100% sure on this one yet. And the way that I'm approaching Diablo 4 is reflecting to my levels. I maybe considered it a bit slow to the other streamers, but I am trying to learn and take everything myself. I'm staying away from like guys, staying away from like, you know, learning much from like other people. I really want to like consume this game alone at my own speed, because this launch is only going to happen once to me, and I really like the Diablo franchise. So don't want to just like, you know, consume everything and like, you know, maximize everything out of it. So I'm like looking forward to changing even classes later on. It's going to be kind of fun, and like learn everything from the beginning for those classes as well, which where I will have no clue. So that will be a really fun journey for me as well, just like I did in Grim Dawn, right? So you know, fuck it, whatever everybody else is thinking, I'm just like, you know, doing my own thing. And yeah. So another thing is elemental dominance that you take over here, just 9% straight up, more damage, increased damage if you're casting stuff at 50. One thing that I do not know is that I don't know if this actually works for the automatic procs, which we have a lot of them, right? The enchantments that we are using, we have already talked about the frozen orb. The second one is going to be the ice shards. When you get up to a point where you are comfortably freezing everything on your screen, I don't really remember when did this happen, but there comes a point where like you're really comfortably freezing almost everything, pretty much like within maybe 1.5 seconds when you start DPSing them, including the big boys. Not the bosses, of course. They have a stagger bar. We'll come to that too. But when that happens, the ice shards definitely take over. Before this one, I was actually using the blizzard enchantment on the secondary. That was a mistake. Don't use the blizzard enchantment. It's pretty bad. Even with like the area increase that is coming from the glyphs, it is still pretty bad, because blizzard's damage is very lackluster. I would like it to be a little bit buffed actually. It's really lacking. Because like there are some conditions that it needs to go through, like, you know, it deals more damage to the frozen enemies and whatnot. But even in that case, you know, like my other stuff that is coming from my arsenal is also dealing more damage to frozen stuff. So again, they're still better than Blizzard. So I would like Blizzard to be a little bit more DPS than it is. I'm still fully committed into Blizzard. We have 5 points into it. We have enhanced Blizzard, and we have a Wizard's Blizzard, which is, you know, reducing the cost of my abilities. You could also take something like Blizzard's duration is increased. That's kind of like up to you. If your mana is doing fine, you could definitely. So from the defensive part of things, we're only taking 1 point into the teleports, and we're going to take 1 point into Nova, and you must take the Mystical Frost Nova. I mean, the Mystical Frost Nova is absolutely insane, especially for your solo content. In group content, there'll be other means, other people that are like going to be putting vulnerability on bosses, especially, which is what you care. excuse me. There's a unique that I use. It says freeze. When you freeze an enemy, there's 30% chance they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. So this is usually what I do when it comes to like all the content. But when it comes to bosses, right, we need a reliable vulnerability, and that's going to be coming from our Frost Nova. So just when the boss is going to be breaking, when it's going to be going into stagger, you're supposed to Frost Nova them. They will also not, they will obviously not be Nova, but when they break, they will, you know, you want to time it right so that like the 6 seconds of downtime is going to be overlapping with 6 seconds of vulnerability when you're in solo content, and therefore you will have insane amounts of damage on your disposal. That's going to be the defensive skills for you. You're going to be having 3 points into Glass Cannon as well. This is, you know, as soon as you take your teleports, in my opinion, you should take Glass Cannon. So there's going to be precision magic. It took me a while to understand what is going on with the lucky hit, but this is one of the cooler things that I have seen in a game like that. I'm not going to delve too much into it, but there are lots of things that you can like have. These lucky hits are called. The easiest way to explain them is like procs, like trinket procs in other games. Okay, they're called lucky hits in this. So another ability of your character is coming like from this or that item or this like glyph or like a passive from a skill, anything. They're called lucky hits. So now you're able to lucky hit or luckily proc this as well. And they have their own small chances, right? Every single skill has their own additive lucky hit proc chance also. But then there's also another stat, your lucky hit chance. So this also added on top of all of this. So let's say if there's a trinket, right, in the game that gives you like 10% chance to freeze the target immediately, you know, just never minding the chill build up, immediately lucky hits and freeze it. Okay, there's such an item, by the way. It is this one. It says lucky hits up to 24% chance to freeze the target. So this 24% chance can be increased, right, from the stat called your lucky hit chance is increased by 15%. Now I don't necessarily know if this is additive, so the 24% becomes 39. I don't know yet. It might just be, you know, it might just be boosted by 15%. So 24%, 15% added on top of it. Probably that is how. Yeah, but this is very, very cool, and the more procs you have, the more value this thing gains. And we're going to be meddling with lucky hits in the long run. But from the conjuration section, you're only taking the lucky hits, and you're taking like 1 point into the align the elements, so that like when you're moving around, you have a huge amount of damage reduction building up, and you're not gonna be one shot because like you stepped into the wrong, you know, wrong mob at a point. I think this is a really, really valuable one point. You don't really need this while leveling, but when when stuff gets pretty difficult and they're hitting very hard, they can like kind of one tap you, one shot you. Yeah, I would consider taking just 1 point into that. It's pretty good. The snap freeze is very good. This is another lucky hit. This is a proc. Frost skills have up to 9% chance to instantly freeze, as you can see. So this is going to be multiplied by that guy over there. That's pretty nice. We talked about the Blizzard. You're taking 5 points and building into the Wizard's Blizzard. But as I said, you can take the Mage's Blizzard as well. It's completely fine. And then comes the ultimate parts. You can 100% play with the Inferno to collect things together. I just found it so that like the Deep Freeze was kind of complementing my build a little bit better. It gives me some sort of like an immunity when I'm in danger, because I can like just chill and like sit in it. I usually go into Supreme Deep Freeze as well, which kind of resets the cooldown of the other stuff. Remember, we have Frost Nova and we have Teleport. So when you're playing like incredibly quickly, when you're at a fast pace, you can definitely go into the Supreme Deep Freeze, but I've spent my points elsewhere right now. Yeah, but yeah, look into Supreme Deep Freeze. It's kind of cool. For fast-paced playstyle it is. You will need to max out all of these passives. These passives are absolutely broken for our Frost. It's Frost damage to elites, damage dealt to chilled enemies, increased damage to frozen enemies. It's cold damage against vulnerable enemies. We were always against vulnerability. And you deal increased cold damage to vulnerable enemies over there as well. This one is actually mana regeneration against vulnerable enemies with cold. Kind of fast read that and made a mistake, sorry. About the key passives, right? I am gonna leave this up to you to decide, because they have their like own pluses and minuses. So Shatter is your bread and butter explosion, right? When everything is just on the screen, You know, one thing exploding leading to another one exploding, and then the entire screen just shatters most of the time. But it's important to remember you need to be overpowering the content that you're in, because when there's a strong mob on the screen, he's not gonna give a shit about your shatter, because you won't be able to kill it. So to begin shattering, right, you need to be able to just kill something and freeze, or deal immense amounts of damage to them, that type of damage is going to be just one-shotting everything else. When the content is hard and when your DPS is not yet there, shatter is falling off drastically. Now you're just like wasting it. So I would tell you to use the shatter if you're overpowering the content, right? But I would tell you to use avalanche if you're in a content where like you're not necessarily incredibly impactful, right? You're not two-shotting stuff, and you use avalanche definitely. So these two, they're both incredibly good. The shatter, I already explained what it does. The frost avalanche is going to be basically giving you a chance to give you a free cast of frozen orb, blizzard, or ice shards, which we're going to be utilizing at the very least 2 of them, you know, whichever you spec into. So this is very, very good. It also increases its damage dealt, and it's the chance of this proccing is also doubled versus vulnerable enemies. So it's going to be proccing left and right, and this will be giving you more frozen orbs, more ice shards, and more blizzard casts. It's very, very fun to play, especially against harder content. It's definitely much better. Shatter, as I said, I usually play with Shatter. It's just that like it is absolutely useless against things that you just cannot kill within the freeze time. If the things are surviving the first freeze, I would really go into Avalanche instead. So this is how the spec is looking. I've already shown you the Paragon board as well, but as I said, like my Paragon board is going to be drastically changing, 100%. So don't take that as granted. Same goes for like the items. I kind of know what I'm doing. So there's a Shatter Explosive item over here, which is really good. 60% increased damage if the enemies are dying within the freeze. Very important that you need to kill them in the freeze, and so like doing hard content with my character is not the best right now. There's the vulnerability to frozen enemies. This is very cool. This was extremely rare, by the way. I've only found one of these things so far, and I've imprinted onto my ring. It gives me primary resource whenever I crowd control an enemy. And I am sure if you're going to be playing this character, you're going to at some point ask yourself, wait a minute, is slow and chill crowd control? Yes, and I'm 100% sure. Slow and chill are crowd control in Diablo 4. So every time we chill anything, we chill everything the second that we come in contact with them anyways, we generate primary resource, which is incredibly good for us. So that's a very, very good aspect, legendary aspect. You're going to be putting this onto your weapon so that like it's doubled, and you will be seeing on the clip at the end of this video why it is just ridiculous damage. When something is frozen, we just absolutely destroy it. This was an incredibly rare unique as well. You don't need something like this. Just buffs your frost damage a little bit more. To be honest with you, you can even, for the longest time while I was leveling, I played with a yellow boots. I should have just like put it some aspect onto them, but yeah. And what I'm trying to say is the point is the boots aspects, they don't really matter too much. There's some like cool stuff. This is a unique aspect. So this is not a legendary one, but there are some like legendary aspects that you can put, but they're not necessarily that great. From the boots, what you want is usually like double evade, movement speed, and on top of that, +2 to like teleport would be kind of nice. But yeah, like main stat would be really good as well. Obviously, stats are incredibly good towards the late game because they ramp up really nicely thanks to the Paragon board, the percentages that are capable of coming, and the fat amount of like stats coming from your gear. Enemies frozen with your Noah, unleash another Noah. I could actually change this. It's not that mandatory, but it's kind of cool to like put vulnerability to enemies with my Nova procs, of course. The Lucky Hits gloves I already shown you. I think these are actually not that rare. I've seen like even other classes finding these, so I'm assuming you're gonna end up finding one for yourself as well. I had one at Sacred, and then one at Ancestral. So I found one at like World Tier 3, and then Tier 4 I found the Ancestral unique versions as well. They're incredibly good, obviously, but when you're running a gloves like this, you're kind of sacrificing +4 to ice shards. because that's a stat that you can roll on the yellow gloves. So this is another section that I should talk about. You should try to pay a little bit of attention. Like, I am very lazy. I just like dismantle all the gear all the time, the yellow gear. But try to pay attention to gloves a little bit, because if you could somehow find +4 to, like, this is late game, of course. Earlier game you have +2. If you can somehow like find +2 or +4 frozen orb or ice shard, it kind of definitely like gives you a lot of power for sure. So maybe in very late game I'm not going to be running Frostburn. Maybe just now it is okay, but like later on I would like to have something that is like, you know, critical strike chance and +4 ice shards, and perhaps a couple more things into that. Yeah, some offensive, like maybe like a hit chance. We'll see. The chance to have less damage taken from crowd controlled or vulnerable enemies. You're always crowd control everything. So 25% flat, less damage taken. Very good. And then this is very, very good as well. We have some synergies coming up from like barrier stuff. And this is a crazy barrier. There are going to be some synergies coming up from like barriers on your Paragon board as well. But yeah. So this is going to be it. I'm gonna like add at least one clip of like me killing a boss single target, so that like you see what the single target is looking like. I'm gonna, if I can find more clips, I'll also show, but like I'm streaming every day for about like 13 hours right now actually on Twitch. So if you would like to drop by, feel free to. I hope this video was useful. Peace out everybody. Thank you for watching. Stay there. Alright, we've managed to build like so much faster than I thought we would, so I'm gonna wait a little bit here for the Frost Nova. It's like Frost Nova is the nuke. It's 6 seconds of vulnerability on a boss, which is incredibly reliable. So we do like this, this, this. There it is. That is absolutely not DPS right there. Rest in peace to that champion, man.